All right, let's get into spoilers really quick. Spoilers. So, a couple things. I mentioned the one segment that I thought was really, really good as far as the Black Mirror-esque satire. That is specifically, there's the sequence where we go with one of the characters and discover, and that's actually the Juno Temple character. We discover her, at the beginning of her little segment, her son has been killed in a school shooting. Like, oh my gosh, you're going to have fun with a school shooting. They kind of do. And she immediately gets contacted for the support group for people whose kids have been killed by school shooters. And essentially what it is, it's like a company that will basically give you a clone version of your kid to make you able to deal with it, because now you'll have this kid, that version, this version of your son or your daughter. And she does it. Part of the catch is, of course, they're not really fully their kid. They're kind of like, I mean, almost more like a robot than they are like a clone, but you just take it for granted they can make a clone immediately. But in her case, she couldn't afford it. It's super expensive. So they include like advertisements. So, her kid will be just hanging out with her, driving in the car, and all of a sudden they'll say like, hey, Mama, I'm thirsty. Can we have some, I'm going to make up something, can we have some Jolt Cola? I've heard Jolt Cola is the greatest cola I've ever had, And it basically becomes like this advertisement that like be in line in his life all the time. And there's that whole thing. But the best part of that segment, and that you've kind of seen versions of that in Black Mirror specifically, but the best version of that segment is she goes to the actual support group, where there's a bunch of people who have done this, and she meets this couple who have done it, and they're very, very cheerful, like overly cheerful. They're so happy, and they're talking to her, and they talk to her about like, well, how they've done it several times, and she's like, several times, and she's like, oh yeah, our clone also got shot in a school shooting, and alone you're like, oh my gosh, this is dark. And they said like, we just start having fun with it because you have to give this whole questionnaire because they want to recreate your child's personality, as close to the reality of what it was as they can. So you have that experience of healing and feeling like that person's still in your life. But this couple whose, actual kid and then clone version of their kid has been killed multiple times by school shooters, they're like, oh, we should just have fun with it. Let's make a kid that's totally wacky and different than our kid. And it's so funny. And that whole scene is just amazing. So that was one of the better like segments in the side. But the overall thing, talking about spoilers, the overall thing that's kind of interesting, of course, is like, how does this play out? So they're on this long journey. Sam Rockwell's trying to avoid all the moments and the pitfalls that have destroyed him in the past to get to this house. And the house is just partway across town. It's not even that far. But the house is where this kid is who invents the AI that destroys the world, thus the kind of Terminator story. He's with the whole, motley crew of people, one of them being the kind of the princess character, Ingrid, I mentioned, played by Haley Lou Richardson. They, for the first time, make it to the house. They see the kid. The kid's in like this room atop this like pile of wires, surrounded by like animated, like monsterish, like assembled toys, very, very Toy Story-esque. And the woman I said before who has her clone child, she basically ends up with an audio only version of her clone child, an AI version of her dead child in a little box that she can put in her pocket, almost like a cell phone, because it's a better version of her child than the very advertisey version that she got like a full body version of. So she has this little AI box in her, she carries along with her that no one knows about. And that ends up being part of the way that they try to defeat and, destroy the AI entity being created by this young kid. And at the end of the movie, of course, they kind of plug into the mainframe and end up destroying it. There's the happy ending where they kind of stumble out into the light. They did it. They killed the AI of the future. Part of that is because Sam Rockwell discovers the princess is actually his mother, and his mother, who had been killed in the future by AI, is part of the reason he's out to make this revenge. So there's this whole kind of connection and this kind of awareness that he gets out of this particular version of the journey he never got before. But the happy ending, of course, is an illusion, and he failed. He hits the button. He zaps back to the future, and he knows he has to start this all over again, and he runs into the diner. So on the good side of that ending, I would say I was very happy that this one timeline was not the one that succeeded, because that's what your expectation is. If we're only getting one timeline, it's got to be the one that succeeds, which is kind of a disappointment. Like, you should have that tension that maybe it won't work. So on the good side of that, it wasn't the one that won. He didn't win. He almost won. Now, on the bad side is it really sets it up for sequels, which I don't think we need. We don't need sequels. This is its own little adventure. It's good. You can make your own choice on if he ever succeeds or if he ever doesn't succeed. It doesn't really matter. It's the adventure that you're here for, and kind of the discovery and the arc of our main character and some of the other characters in the story. So I think overall it was really satisfying. There were some really fun, like, odd elements too. There's a cat creature that's very memorable that I loved quite a bit. It's kind of there for just a WTF kind of a thing, but it works, I think, in that aspect as well. Visually inventive, very great characters. I think Sam Rockwell, all the characters are really good, but Sam Rockwell having to be kind of the crazy lead is excellent, as you might expect. So a lot of fun. Good luck. Have fun. Don't die. I think it's worth a watch.